Hey there, this is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you some music production tips while recreating the Chainsmokers side effects. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So let's go ahead and listen to the drum pattern that's happening in the chorus of the song. And it's pretty straightforward. Now I want to do a couple things that can help bring life to this drum pattern and not make it sound so stiff. And I'm going to focus my attention first on the hi-hat pattern. The hi-hat is playing a consistent 16th note pattern, and the velocity of each hi-hat is set to full velocity. You can see it here. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to go to that hi-hat sample, and we're going to make sure that we go into the control settings and change the velocity setting by default, which is at 0.0%, and move it up. It doesn't really matter what number. It's just what you need to understand is the greater number value you give this attribute, the bigger difference it's going to make when you adjust the velocity of that specific sound. So for right now, let's just head somewhere around 43%, and we can adjust it later. So going back to my clip, now what we're going to see is when we adjust the velocity of that specific sound, it's actually going to change the volume of that sound. So the lower the velocity, the softer the amplification, or just the lower in volume. So what I'm going to do is focus my attention on that first hi-hat and make sure that the velocity is set all the way to 127, the max. And then we're going to go to the second hi-hat and just slightly lower the velocity of that one. And what's going to happen is the first hi-hat will get accented. And it's going to play louder in volume, while the second one plays a little bit lower in volume. And this is what's going to create some more of that human vibe to the drums and take away some of the stiffness from the hi-hats. So let's go ahead and highlight those, copy them, and then just simply hit Command D to duplicate it. So let's just take a listen to the hi-hat pattern and compare them from the ones that have the difference in velocity to the ones that are just straight stiff with the velocity all the way maxed out. So you can hear the difference, how with the velocity all the way up, the hi-hats just sound stiff and robotic. But when you play around with the velocity of each individual hi-hat, you can bring some life to the drum pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just copy these hi-hats over here, and let's just duplicate that. And make sure we have those hi-hats playing throughout the whole pattern. Next, I want to add a reverse clap right before this first initial clap happens. So let's go to our drum rack and let's go ahead and choose our clap. And while holding the Option key down, we can go ahead and drag and drop that and duplicate that same exact sample. And so let's go ahead and select that one and right click in the sample view and choose reverse sample. Now if we trigger it, so let me go ahead and rename this to reverse clap. Now let's go ahead and place this in our, there you go. And we might have to adjust the starting position of the sample because it will probably take a while for it to trigger. So let's just move this here and adjust accordingly. And we don't have to play the whole pattern. We can actually start from this section here. Cool, so I like the feel that that reverse clap gives to these claps over here. So next, I want to use a reverb on those claps, but I actually would like to send a little bit of that clap signal to the reverb. And so within a drum rack, you can actually use sends and returns with different effects. So in the drum rack on the bottom left-hand corner, you can hit the R button to open up the returns, the effects that you would like to use within the drum rack. So let's go to the audio effects and let's choose a reverb. Drag and drop that into there. And now when you open up your drum rack, you'll see a send, A, because that's the first effect that we have on there. And you can put up to multiple effects and send multiple sends. So now let's go to those claps. A little bit of the reverse will be sent to the reverb. And let's send some of those claps to the reverb now as well. And we can go to the reverb to adjust it. So let's go ahead and just loop this section with the claps in there to get just more or less the vibe that we're looking for with the reverb. I'm going to change the quality from eco to mid. And let's just take a little bit of the high end off. And let's go ahead and knock a little bit down of the diffusion. So that's how we can use effects within the drum rack and send different instruments to that reverb or that effect. So if I want a little bit more of the main clap and less reverb on the reverse. Next, I'm going to use Ableton Live 10's drum bus plugin on the drum rack just to kind of glue everything together. So I just cranked up a little bit of the transients, some drive, and I gave a little bit of extra bottom end beef using the boom feature here. Now let's focus our attention on the heart and core of this song, which is the bass line. Now, if you don't have a bass player around, or if you're not a bass player yourself, it can be hard to capture the nuances that you capture when recording a bass into your project. And sometimes trying to manipulate third-party plugins can be difficult to really make it feel real and authentic. But I've come across IK Multimedia's Moto Bass, which is a plugin that has just blown my mind with being able to capture all the nuances and the small little details that go into capturing a really great bass sound. So not only could you change the different models of basses, but you can change the different type of play style. Is it going to be with a finger, pick, slap, the amount of muting, the detached noises. You can even change the type of strings. They're going to be round wound, flat wound. They could be old, brand new strings. You could drop the tuning. It's just amazing. Even the electronics can be changed here. We could adjust the bridge and all the different types of pickups and everything that goes into creating a customized, anything a real bass player would do to customize their bass to get a unique sound, as well as run it through different types of amps and pedals that you can use to change the overall tone. So here's the actual riff being played through this current model right now. So you can even move where the finger or the pick is being played and just change the overall tone. Play style, the finger, slap. So I'm going to leave it back on pick. The different type of stroke, is it going to be up or down? The scratch from the actual pick itself is going to be hard, normal. I mean, it is amazing. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and let me go back to the type of model, and I've really loved the sound and the texture of the Rickenbass. So I've gone and I chose the Rickenbass and I ran it through a couple different settings. I've put the play style to a pick with a little bit of muting, and I brought the detached noise, basically the noise that happens when your finger or the pick lets go of the actual string. We've got some old strings on there, and it really does make a difference. Listen to what it sounds like when you have brand new strings on the bass. The broken in and an old. So it's really cool. You can change the different bridge, the neck. So just tweaking around with this plugin, I was really just blown away. It's like, wow, I can really capture all those details and nuances that I would normally get when tracking either myself playing the bass or any other bass player with a unique setup or even a unique bass that they want to use on the project. So we're just running a little bit of gain. We've got the gain cranked a little bit more in the halfway on the amp itself to get some of that fuzz. And you can mix the amp between the DI. And so that's just the plugin directly by itself. And now what I want to do is just a little bit of tweaking. So we're going to go to the multiband dynamics. I'm going to use the OTT preset under the multiband. Just literally just drag and drop that right after that and dial back the amount. And that's going to help bring up some of those nice little nuances in the upper high mid register. Now what's going to give some nice vibe and groove to this is sidechaining this bass to the kick drum. So let's grab a compressor, drag and drop that right after the multiband dynamic, open up the sidechain command, and let's choose the source. So we want the audio coming from the drum rack, and within the drum rack, we want the kick to be the source causing the sidechaining to happen on the bass. And now let's get drastic and then work our way back up. And that really helps create a nice pocket for that bass, and a lot of the detached noise and things really pop up a lot more when that happens. So now we can use an EQ to just shape overall the sound, maybe take out some many frequencies that we want to highlight or some that we want to just take away. Well, next I've copied the same bass pattern onto an Ableton Live analog, which is a 2 oscillator synth. And I'm doing that so that I can have the first oscillator set to a sine wave, and then the second one set to a sine wave as well, but just keeping it at a higher, the main octave. So I've got one oscillator an octave down and the second oscillator an octave up. And using the filter frequency to just take away in the high end and keep it there. And this is so I can just maintain a lot more of that bottom end from the bass line. And so layering that with our fuzz or electric bass gives a nice overall tone now to the bottom end. This is without it. And I'm also going to use some side chaining, same thing that we're doing. We're going to grab the kick drum from our drum rack. And not as heavy as I did with the electric, just so that the bottom end could come in a little bit more fuller for that as well. Next, let's go ahead and add the grand piano that we hear in the chorus section. So I'm using Ableton Live's grand piano stock plugin. Let's take a listen to the chords. Gotta love that minor to major change that happens there. It's really cool and uplifting. Well, I want to add some more punchiness to the pianos. I want them to really just kind of jump out at you in the mix. So I'm going to go to the multi-band dynamics and I'm going to use the OTT plugin. And I like using this preset because it does exactly that. It really allows a lot of the high, mid, and lows to just, you know, stand right out into the mix by just squashing those frequencies. So let me just scale it back, or we'll start at 100% and then scale it back to our liking. This is without it. You can hear once the OTT is on, that boxiness of the piano kind of goes away. It's being compressed, and then the brightness stands out a little bit more, and it just has a little bit better body being represented there. So that's what I'm using. And I also want to widen up the sound, so I'm going to use a little bit of chorus here. Too much makes it sound a little ragtimey and a little toyish. So let's just bring it down. And we're going to use a flanger to just create some motion. Just very subtle, but it has a nice feel to it. A little bit of reverb, and let's see what it sounds like. Cool. Now let's go ahead and implement a loop. So next I'm going to use a drum loop to kind of just add some more texture and vibe to the drums. So I'm getting a drum loop here from a sample pack that I've put together that you can download absolutely free. Just click the link below in the description box to download the sample pack today. Just click this and add it right here. Let's set that right next to the drums. Now let's have a pad layered with the pianos. So let's go ahead and open up the analog again. We're just going to go to the pad section here. That's a cool tone, so we'll use the bender chord preset, drag and drop that, and let's drag and duplicate the piano riff. So if we solo this, so first thing we need to do is change the pattern. We're just going to have this pad play the first chord and hold it out. So let's just delete these. We're going to leave the first chord of each progression. And by selecting all of them and hitting legato, that now extends all the chords to each other. So now this will just play the chords and hold them out for that whole duration. So let's go into this and take off this chord minor major thing. Set that to 0. And let's have that tucked away right behind the pianos. Well, I hope this video has been encouraging, inspiring, and helpful for you. And as my gift to you for watching this video, I'd love to send you a sample pack that I've put together from some of my past projects. This sample pack includes construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects that you can use in any DAW that you're currently using. And as a bonus, it's 100% royalty free, so you feel free to use them in any of your projects. This is yours absolutely free. Just click the link below in the description box. Or you could visit www.beatacademy.com/pack to download your sample pack today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.